Aloha and mahalos for tuning in. Today we have a unique Warden tank where a lot of the stuff is focused on buffing your team's physical and spell resistance with a few notable sets that you'll see later on. And I found this build to be, quite unique, quite interesting. I don't think I've seen many out there. So it's not a damage shield tank, but it's more of a, just resistance, buffing your team's resistances by a whopping 13k. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for the 500 subs. That's just ridiculous. I never thought it would ever get that far. But yeah, let's get started. Alright, so you're going to pick a warden for your class. Now, as for your race, there are 3 viable options: the Nord, the Imperial, and the Red Guard. Now, I highly suggest the Red Guard if you're going to be focused more on blocking. I would recommend the Nord if you want just an overall tankier gameplay with better resistance and ultimate regen. And if you want something in between, I would go with Imperial. All 3 choices are viable. Now, as you can see with the attributes here, I put basically everything into health, but don't hesitate to put point in stamina if you want, because it'll give you a longer block. It will allow you to block more effectively, right? You really don't need 48k health here. It's a lot. Anything around 40, some low 40k is enough for you to do the most hardest trials in the game. Now, yeah, here are some of the advanced stats here that they, I think, recently added in with the new update. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but yeah, just take a gander at that. Now for your food, Bewitched Sugar Skulls for health recovery or Artaeum Takeaway Broth for more stamina recovery. The choice is up to you, right? The latter will provide you with better block. And for your Mundus Stone, you want to have the Serpent. Increase that stamina recovery so you can increase your blocking duration and potential. Now for your gear sets, there are 2 that I use here, which are Grave Guardian and Leeching Plate. Now Grave Guardian is that set where it allows you to increase your physical and spell resistance by a whopping 4.4k just by blocking, and any teammate around you within a certain radius will also get access to that buff. So that's the new set. And then you have Leeching Plate, which is, your standard, a lot of tanks use, basically make you immortal because of the life leech. Now for the monster set, you want to use a Lord Warden Dusk. So when you take damage, you put another orb on the ground, which increases the physical and spell resistance of your team by another 3.1 to 3.2k. Alright, so here I'm basically just showing you what I have on my character. So I don't have the recommended traits that I just recommended on the previous slides, so ideally you want to have block traits on your gear, which I don't have for a lot of these pieces. Because this is a block heavy build, I definitely recommend having sturdy, right? So you can see here a lot of the even enchantments, I don't even think I have them correct on my weapons and all that stuff, and my rings and all that. But you definitely want to maximize your stamina recovery, so be wary of that. But I've been using this character with this low level gear, and honestly it still works. So don't be too discouraged if you don't have everything yet. Alright, so for your front bar, you want to have Gripping Shards from your Winter's Embrace skill line, which is mainly used to immobilize enemies around you, right? It gives a little bit of mild frost damage as well, but it's really to help immobilize enemies, to make it easier for the DPS to kind of pick people off, and to get some heat off them. Now, Arctic Blast is your main self-burst heal. Now, it's really strong and it's quite costly, but it will help you in a lot of situations when, things get a little heavy and you need some heals and your healers, maybe he's down or, it's just too overwhelming for them. And plus, this can immobilize enemies around you if you let it pulse 3 times. So this is a great self-burst heal that I think every Warden tank should have. Now, for your Ice Fortress from the Winter's Embrace skill line is your next skill, and that is your main team resistance buff, which gives you 5% damage mitigation as well. And this is something you have to keep up every 24 seconds for your team in order for them to have the effects of the Major Resolve. Now for your defensive stance, this is mainly slotted just for the passive buff, so you can block 10% more damage, and it's also 10% less to block in terms of stamina cost. But it can also be used as a damage shield, but it's mainly here for its passives. Now, Pierce Armor from your one-handed shield is your main aggro or taunt skill, which also reduces enemies' resistances with major and minor breach. Self-explanatory here. And then for your ultimate ability, it's really up to you. I like Healing Thicket just so I can be like a semi-support healer in the background sometimes in case people are a little squishy, but I think like there are other viable options as well. Like, let's say here we got Northern Storm from the Winter's Embrace, and this is going to give you more damage mitigation, so that's a good skill too. And for your back bar, this is absolutely necessary. You want that Bull Netch under your Animal Companion skill line, and that's mainly to restore stamina and remove negative effects and give you a much more longer block. Now as for your passives, you want to have these points in Animal Companions, the first and the fourth one from Green Balance, and then all of Winter's Embrace, because most of your spells are Winter's Embrace. And then for your other passives, you want, obviously in your one-handed shield, your heavy armor, your undaunted, and your racial. As for your champion points, this is what I recommend for this class, right? Very basic skills that you're supposed to put on a tank under champion points. Quite self-explanatory, but if you need to see a guide, I would recommend going on another person's site and having them explain, because they're going to explain it a lot better than me. So in terms of how to use this tank, it's pretty simple, right? You just want to pre-buff your team by casting your Ice Fortress, which gives a major resolve, which is going to give them a shit ton of resistance. Then you want to cast your Bull Netch from your back bar for extra stamina recovery, which will allow you to block longer. Now what you want to do is run up to enemies, cast your Gripping Shard so you can catch as many enemies as you can to immobilize, and then once that happens, you just want to pick people off or pick hard enemies off with your Pierce Armor. Once you have that down, you're just going to start blocking, and that's it. Instruct your teammates to stay within your aura, right? And the aura is very obvious. You'll be able to see it on screen, and cast Defensive Stance if you need to, but it's mainly on your bar for its passive effects. But now you're basically an Aegis or a shield for your entire team. Now here's just a really quick explanation of the resistances and how it works in ESO. So basically every 660 spell or physical resistance you have, it'll give you 1% extra damage mitigation. So this buffs the team at 13k or 13,000 resistance. So if you divide 13,000 by 660, you get approximately 19.667, which is about 20%. We'll round up to 20%. Now the hard cap for resistances in this game is 33k. That's the most you can have. Anything past that number with 33k will not give you more damage mitigation. So say that you have 33k defense on your guy, and somebody has the capability of doing 1k damage if your resistance was 0. If you have 33k, that 1k is now 500, so it's halved, 50% damage mitigation. So just by blocking and proccing alone with this Warden tank build, you are giving your team a 20% resistance buff. And here I'm just showing some screenshots that my buddy sent about with his character after being buffed with my Warden tank, right? So here you can see he's really squishy. You got 15k spell, a little under 8k physical resistance. And after standing in my aura, with the Lord Warden Orb, the block, and the Ice Fortress, he went up to around 20k, right? And you can see the spell resistance is like 28k. So it's very interesting. It's kind of nice. And even he noted that he was a lot tankier when he was going in to, kill enemies. Yeah, and that's basically it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have... Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on, I didn't even... Okay, sorry. So I'm going to show some gameplay here. And this was me in, I think, March of Sacrifices. Now, we never really got to finishing this dungeon because at one point the healer was just too goddamn squishy and it just couldn't stay alive, so we ended up giving up. But we got pretty far in the dungeon, I would say. And this is my first time using it in a difficult one, so this is kind of cool. So here, it's one of the bosses in the March of Sacrifices, the very first one, right? The Ursus. Do pretty good here, decent sustain. And a lot of the times, like I noticed like the team being slightly tankier if they stood within my aura. So after using all my combos, I just stand in the Lord Warden, like that orb, that purple orb you see right there, start blocking, and then use Ice Fortress, and rinse and repeat, and that's basically it. Stab if needed, but here on the bottom right, you can see my ultimate. I have like that healing tree thing, so it was pretty helpful. Saved us in a lot of occasions. That's an oxymoron. A lot of occasions doesn't make any sense. Now here I am in Scalecaller Peak, fighting this giant boss. This was a bitch, kept forgetting to block a lot of the time, so I got one-shotted and stuff. But eventually I learned, and yeah, here I'm just blocking. My team's not even near me, so they really don't get the benefits of the resistances. There's no point. This character is basically capped once you cast Ice Fortress, so all the 40k resistance that this guy possibly has is kind of useless at that point, you know, unless they have penetration or something that reduces your resistance, like the breach and stuff. And this is one of the bosses here. I'm just kind of showing you the survivability and tankiness here, because my team kept dying here. I've never tanked in this dungeon, so I didn't know you had to stand in those vents and block in order to mitigate a lot of the damage. But see, he was like, tank, can you stand on vents? And he's like, I don't know what that means. But yeah, you see people here die. So I'm going around picking people up, you know, with very good survivability. So it was really difficult to kill this character, you know, despite not having all the sets that I normally use. So it was nice. See right here, picking up as many people as I can, and did eventually, we had to start over and shit because I lagged out. And then here you got the final Scalecaller Peak boss, Zon. And quite a learning curve. Kind of forgot the mechanics a bit, but see, that guy kept dying up there. That Scottish dude, or Scott's kinsman, but see. So it's yeah, pretty good tank. I wonder, I hope you guys find this, or found this interesting, or maybe helpful. Maybe you could use this for a trial. I don't know how viable it would be. I'd like to try. I just don't have many friends that do trials often, so that's why I really couldn't test it out in larger groups. But honestly, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you again for 500 subs, because I really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Take it easy.